Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio. We are offering an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I am joined by Rob Henderson today.
Hello.
And I am Brian Black. Today we are talking about getting outdoors. And not just regular getting outdoors, but more the benefits from being out in the environment and what it can do to you in your normal everyday life. So that's kind of what we want to talk about.
Unless you have a job that's getting outdoors, in which case, get indoors.
True. But we were talking the other day, and we thought this would be a good topic because we were both kind of talking about the merits and benefits of just what nature does to, I guess, your soul, if you will. I hate to go down that path, but I just did.
Yep,
so
we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
We said soul.
Soul. But it really is, man.
It's
I think that it kind of helps reset you to zero and gets you back basically where you should be, in my opinion. I've had times where I haven't done anything for 6 to 8 months where I don't get outdoors, and then I get outdoors, I'm like, oh my God, why did it take me so long?
Why am I not doing this every night?
And it doesn't even have to be an overnight thing. It can be a day hike. It can be, I'm just going to take off for a couple hours and find the nearest woods that I can and go walk around for a while. It just, it really could be anything. And I walk around the block a lot with Kelly and the dog and stuff like that, and I just don't consider that really getting outdoors. But even that, to me, helps. I do feel more energized after I do that, and it's probably just because it's activity as well.
Sure.
But there is kind of that, I wouldn't even call it back to zero effect from that, but really just kind of a boost of energy, if you will, just from getting out like that. So
yeah, I think that there's a big time perception swing for me. So there have been, as everybody has, I have had what I refer to as Netflix Saturdays, where you will wake up, you'll start watching Netflix, and I'll watch a show or sometimes an entire season of a show, and it'll literally be the whole day, and you'll look up and it's like 8:30 at night, and you're like, what happened? And then there are times when I'm out in the woods or even just out and about on a day-to-day weekend or a regular weekend, and I'll think, oh man, we're running out of daylight, and I'll look and it's like 2:30 in the afternoon. Like, time goes slower for me whenever I'm not plugged in, or like 80s hackers would say, I'm not jacked into the mainframe. There's just such a disconnect, I think, between the passage of time whenever you're just consuming stuff, because I think that, like, on a computer you are either creating or consuming stuff, and when you're doing that day in and day out, your time just goes so fast. And so when you do get a chance to kind of, like you said, walk in the woods or build a fire or something like that, your time just kind of slows down, and I think your body just kind of accepts it more as like, yes, this is more natural feeling, or, it's like the crunchy granola hippie part of you is like, oh man, I'm getting in touch with nature. And like you said, it does feel like every time you get out there, you're like, man, what took me so long? But
yeah, I agree. There's also kind of along those lines, but not necessarily outdoors. We're talking about kind of being inside and, plugged in, if you will, during the day. There's a different type of activity that goes on in your brain when you're doing things like reading or working on something or building something. You're using a different part of your brain that really and I had a long conversation about this with a guy that had studied psychology, and he told me about this. So the type of activity that your brain undergoes during those type of activities almost stimulates more productivity, or it stimulates you to want to do more, I guess. Like your focus is different. So I equate that, we were talking about kind of like the whole what's the it's not crossword puzzles, it's
Like Sudoku.
and things like that. Something to, stimulate your brain. So it's along those lines when you're doing things like that, like reading. However, when you're doing things like playing a video game or watching TV or something, it's understimulating, obviously, but it's actually affecting your ability to do those things at a later time. So it's not something that many people think about, but because you're under that type of brain activity for so long, when you stop that, it actually takes you longer to get back to wanting to do something else like that. And I had that conversation probably a month ago or so, and I've been noticing that at night I had been reading articles on my phone for a while, rather than picking up a book, which I always have at least a book or two or three that I'm halfway through or starting on my nightstand. And I have not wanted to touch a book lately, and I use that as a test. So I said, okay, for a couple of nights, I'm just going to put my phone down, set my alarm, put it down, and not pick up my phone as I'm trying to fall asleep. And I didn't have a problem falling asleep, but 3 or 4 days into that, I said, wow, I'm going to pick up this book, and I started reading it again. So it was kind of weird. I don't know if that's just a placebo effect or what, but I did start thinking about it more, so I'm not sure whether that really had an effect or not. But
I think it definitely does. It's the little changes. And so, like, it's a good point that you brought up. It's like not even getting outdoors. It's just like getting outdoors mentally of working on a project or working in the yard or even just being in your own head and setting aside other things coming at you. I've been using Do Not Disturb a lot more on my phone, and I find that Apple in this new operating system gave you a screen time update, which gives you a breakdown of what apps you're using, but the biggest thing, it gives me a notification list. And I'll have days where I get like 120 notifications, and you look at it, and only some of them are phone messages or like contact. Most of it is the weather app pushed you a notification telling you what it's going to be. This did. And so I find that by putting that on Do Not Disturb, I only pick up the phone for important things. And throughout the day, I won't even notice like, oh, I haven't picked up my phone today. And you'll pick it up and you have a bunch of notifications and stuff, but it's not stuff that matters.
Well, I'm starting to use that too. And I just started looking into the limits that you can put. So you can now limit your time on certain apps or social media in general on your phone. So I think that's pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to starting to use that kind of stuff too. Because I looked at those reports for the first, what is it? I've now been like 2 days on iOS 12. So I looked at those. I'm like, oh my God. It's
and
I mean, some of it's work related too. So I mean, that's probably half the usage at least, because I mean, there is a big part of our work that's done on social media and online. I mean, we're an online business after all, but it's just it is eye opening,
right?
How much time.
Well, and it also tells you how many times you picked it up, and that for me is the biggest number to realize that these devices have become a crutch for us to kind of. I mean, imagine like going to the bank and waiting without your phone. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, what are you, crazy? I have a thing that can entertain me. But it is kind of a lost thing, is that people used to just go to places and wait. And they had newspapers or books or something like that. But we've kind of lost the patience to just wait.
I agree. And that's a lot of where, when I find myself feeling the most rewarded after a weekend of doing things, I find the most reward in getting or making small accomplishments on a larger project or something. So, like, I know we've talked about this before, but I'm working on an arcade cabinet. I'm redoing that and doing like a kind of a MAME cabinet to run old video games. And it's one of those things where I never set a goal for when I wanted to finish.
Right.
I just started the project, and I've just been doing it slowly and whenever I want to and whenever I feel like it. And it's caused me to want to do it more and to, finish it. But I've also got an old car that I'm working on too. So like those days that I'm able to do something and make some small milestone improvement or accomplishment, I just feel the most reward out of those. And it has nothing to do with my digital life whatsoever.
No. I'm wondering, I was going to ask you the other day, I wonder, do you have a little bit of dread about finishing the arcade cabinet? Because I feel like with projects like
No,
that.
I actually got another project idea.
But
lined
it's,
up.
to me, it's like the doing is what's so fun.
Yeah.
So I have instances where I'll have a project going, I'm like, man, I don't want to finish this because then it would be done. And what do I do then?
Well, this is a really nerdy thing. I'm trying to not get off on a tangent, but so I found out the other day that I'm getting these small lines on my screen, the monitor that came with it, because I'm trying to redo this with the old arcade monitor, like the old CRT, which is driven by this logic board that's got a bunch of capacitors on it, and those capacitors go bad over time, and one of the symptoms of that is you'll start to see these little, they call them jail bars, little black lines on the screen, and I'm just starting to see those, and I researched it online. I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, oh, you have to buy a cap kit or a capacitor kit, and you have to go in and unsolder and resolder all the new capacitors. I'm like, I'm not really mad about it. So, that's now the new thing that I'm going to have to do eventually too.
That's
so
great.
I'm not done.
Right. So maybe it's one of those projects that'll never be done. It'll always be upgrading.
It's possible. And there is a lot of reward in that too. And it's interesting you say that because a lot of people do have projects like that they just don't ever wind up finishing. They just kind of tinker with and work on every once in a while. And I used to think, well, how can people do that if there's no end in sight? And now I'm like,
it's all about the tinkering.
I just enjoy messing around.
Yep.
So yeah, when I got that car to restore, I told myself, I got it for like $5,000. It's not a very expensive car. It's old Carmen Ghia. It's, kind of beat to crap, but it's in fairly good condition overall for something from 1970, or 69. But it's just a slow thing, And I mean, this weekend, just to give you an example, I worked on windshield wipers. So I used a multimeter, figured out where the short was coming from. Turned out to be a fuse. I replaced the fuse. Everything was good. Then now I'm working on the windshield washer fluid and making that work. It's just,
step by step.
It's cool, man. Yep. I enjoy that stuff. So it's just finding something that you enjoy and that you can zone out on like that does a lot for you mentally too.
Sure.
I feel it's not necessarily the same as getting outdoors, but detaching from that digital life in any way you can, whether it's a project or even, walking outside, like we mentioned can fuel you a lot too. So,
because I think that we do. I mean, there's a lot of other benefits to getting outdoors, like getting in the sun for vitamin D and things like that. So I think we naturally want to be there, but I don't know. Like we said, we kind of put it off, and I don't know what it is in our brain that's like, I'll skip that, or like I don't want to go camping unless the weather's perfect. It's like, hey, sometimes you just need to be a little bit uncomfortable. It doesn't always have to feel like you're air conditioned.
Well, I will make a counter to that because I camped in 104-degree weather this year.
Well, there are silly times to camp.
Yeah, it was bad.
And that maybe it is a climate thing because I'm sure there are listeners that, maybe are in the middle of California that are like, I don't know what you're talking about. It feels great all the time.
Yeah.
Which, we get it. Stop bragging.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting outdoors, but / getting away. And that maybe it's an escape type thing. But at least it's something productive that you'll have a thing at the end of. That's why I like little projects, is that I can always at least have a thing that I'm done with at the end of like, okay, well, at least I made that.
Well, I'm kind of talking trash about the camping trip in the 104-degree weather, but I actually really did enjoy myself too. Because there was a lake nearby, so, we took some kayaks and we were able to jump in the lake and things like that, which it's not the cleanest body of water, but however, it feels great in 104-degree weather.
Yeah.
Just wear a boonie hat and put on sunscreen and, everything's okay. Yeah. So it's really it's not bad no matter what time of the year it is. You just have to, I guess your outlook has to be right. Your perspective needs to be you need to be in the right mindset to enjoy something like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can have that experience anytime.
Yeah, you can always make yourself unhappy.
Oh yeah.
You can always find something to pick at. But if you just step back and realize, it could be worse.
Yeah, it's like we said in the other podcast. It's about how it's not about the action itself. You can only control how you respond to it. So,
right.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Gear Tasting Radio. Remember, if you have questions, use the # Gear Tasting on a social media network. We've been talking about social media and staying off of it, but however, jump on social media
just for a second
and
to
leave
ask
us a question. Yeah. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you're not subscribed. We would love a rating and review. Hopefully, it's 5 stars. Again, shows Apple that we have people that care about us and they like to show podcasts to other people who have people that care about them. So Yeah, there's that.
So before you unplug, listen to our podcast, go do a review on it, and then also, check us out.
Also consider supporting us through the crew leader membership that we have. That'll be in the episode intel from each episode, a link there to join. It allows us to give something back to you for your support of the show. So thanks for listening.